Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing Pearl. This film was directed by Ty West. This is a prequel to the A24 film X, which came out earlier this year. I reviewed that film at the time it came out. And I don't know, when I think about Ty West, I think of him as a guy who, and I said this initially in my review, it's like he's kind of running on the fumes of the mumblecore genre in the mid-2000s, and he starts making a name for himself, particularly making more kind of pastiche films, and I kind of associate him with like 70 slashers and such. And with the film X, I did find it to be a very fun, kind of interesting exercise. It is bold visually for sure, and I think that's definitely West's strength as a filmmaker. He really knows his references and how to use them. Naturally, he is very interested in nostalgia, and I think with X, that film was kind of studying the relationship between eroticism, as it's seen in exploitation films, and how that ties into violence and how we can filter all of that through kind of a modern lens. And it was a fun experience. I just felt like it kind of failed to explore a lot of its points. I felt like it got kind of lost along the way. It seems to kind of tease us with a lot of interesting points without really sinking its teeth into anything, which for me personally as a viewer, it left me a little bit unsatisfied. It felt a little bit too confined by the novelty aspects of things. Yet at the same time, it's not fully fleshed out enough to be a really compelling meta commentary. But now we have Pearl, and it is shot in the same location, obviously, as X, and we have Mia Goth returning here, and she is playing Pearl. Obviously in X, she played dual roles. She played the old woman, the old version of Pearl, and then, a younger woman, this kind of young wannabe starlet in the 1970s, and I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. I wish they had probed that more, that duality there. But this film, obviously being about Pearl as a young woman, it's surprisingly very, very different than I thought it was going to be, because it's going for a very, very different tone here, but it's still inhabiting the horror genre in an interesting way. We're not going here for the exploitation commentary so much as we're kind of exploring the need to escape and just like, our fantasies and our realities and the relationship between them. And so this time we have to create that romanticized world, so that it matches what's going on in Pearl's mind. But again, there always has to be that tinge of bitterness at the center. It's the worms within the Technicolor bright red apples, so to speak. And so we are going more for like a Victor Fleming look. This looks very much like Wizard of Oz, a very dreamy, very saturated look. But again, there is something, it's like laced with a little bit of bitterness. And it certainly reminds me of the films of Douglas Sirk as well from the 1950s. And he is also using that color palette as part of the irony. And naturally that exists here, but in a very Lynchian sort of way. It's because, we see Pearl smiling, and she looks so innocent, and she looks so sweet, so adorable, and she has these tears in her eyes when she's smiling, and yet you can feel something seething. You can feel the desperation, the repression, the devastation, and ultimately the rage, just all in this smile. It's quite extraordinary. And it's building and twisting until she looks like this rag doll from hell or something, wielding an axe, and I think that is a wonderful image. I will talk about what I like about the film, because there are several things that really stick out in my mind. But first of all, it has to be said, Mia Goth is the greatest thing about this movie. I just think she is divine. She is just so Sissy Spacek. Anybody who knows, my videos knows I am a huge Sissy Spacek fan. And I do think that Goth would have been far more suited to be in, her era, more than 1960s, the 70s. She just has that very strange kind of editorial look, and all she needs really are those like very thick 1970s eyelashes, but I think she is absolutely effortless as a cinematic presence. And yeah, not only does she look like a little bit like Sissy Spacek, but she does have a look that's kind of Shelley Duvall, kind of very doe-eyed, kind of Bambi-like, very innocent. And I just love the way that she speaks, because it is, in that higher register, and it's got that real like empty-headed Southern drawl, real hopeful, and it's just, I don't know, it's fantastic. And I think with this movie, she really got a chance to show more of what she can do, I think, as a performer, her range in terms of just the emotions that she can express, because I feel like this movie does show just how much she can embody so many feelings all in one scene, all in one shot. She has a monologue at the end of the film, and it's just, the camera just kind of stays on her, and it's a really, really long take, and it just lets her go and go and go. And I just think it was really amazing seeing all the different revelations and how organically they felt, just because her performance is so good. It's like all these different things that are hinted at that we've speculated about in terms of who she is, all of a sudden it's suddenly coming to light. All that she has internalized has somehow, it feels inevitable to us, but at the same time, it's still somewhat surprising that she's saying it in the way that she is. And weirdly, and I think that's the key here, is that you do feel for her. It's like I didn't necessarily feel for the characters in X, but you really do feel for her here. But you're also quite scared of her, what she could be capable of. She is ethereal yet haunting, and I swear, if I was a director, she would be somebody I would certainly cast in something. There is a very tense scene, and there aren't that many tense scenes, unfortunately, for me, but this one really did work for me. And it's where Pearl is going on an audition, and of course, a lot is riding on this, and it becomes this really wonderful, kind of sumptuous dream sequence that I don't know, I just felt like they took the idea and started to really run with it. It's like we're marinating in the feelings of it so that the self-awareness kind of blends into the surrealism. I definitely wanted more of that sort of thing, a lot more of that sort of thing. But I do think, the choice to just constantly go back to her face, those close-ups of her face are just the key there to why those sequences work. Because again, she's just so innocent and desperate, and when she fails to get what she wants, it's like when she gets upset, she's like wailing and screaming, and it's shrill. It hurts your ears. Again, like a child, and it's really pathetic, and yet it works because we get it. We feel for what she's going through. And naturally, the relationship between her and her mother is a big part of the film. And Pearl certainly has her reasons, and they're stated very clearly all the way through. She has her reasons for why she wants to leave. And she has this love of the fantasy world, while her mother is, more rooted in reality because she's had to be. She's traditional. She's no nonsense, but she's also had to work very hard to survive. But I like the clarity in that you really understand both of their pains, and you understand why they struggle with one another. And so, I enjoyed that, I think, on a surface level. And I do really like, just at the center of the story, the idea of fantasy and reality and the compromises we make for it, for better or worse. And often having to make the choice of either going for broke or making the best of your circumstances. And that sort of thing, the go for broke thing, is a trajectory that is often sketched out in a way that seems very easy for us, and yet it rarely happens to any of us. And I like that. And again, I wanted more of that kind of empty, melancholy feeling at the root of the film driving it. I think that would have been really, really powerful, because there is a line towards the end that I found to be very, very, very sad, but also very relatable and powerful. It's the idea of where I'm not going to say it right, but she basically says something to the effect of, I'm not going to dream big anymore. I'm just going to make the best of my situation, what I have. And, again, it's relatable, but very sad, very chilling. I wanted more of that just existing throughout the film so that we could feel more the emotion in that third act, because I really, really wanted to love it. Because yes, it is naturally a pastiche. So yeah, the intent is going to be, for it to be very self-aware, and it's going to be focused on the artifice by nature. But overall, just as an experience, it does feel a little bit undercooked and just a little bit thin, at least, in terms of the story itself. And a lot of the inner richness, it's like I can sense it, especially, when it spills out into the third act. All of the reasons are given. But again, I wanted more of that momentum driving us to that point. I wanted some of those blanks to be filled in for us. Like I said, there is a lack of tension. Part of me kind of enjoyed kind of the dreamy feel that it gave me, because it's like, it's not soporific, but I'm not on the edge of my seat. And there was something kind of bizarre and interesting about that feeling. And yet again, I wanted more from this. I never felt that feeling of real uncertainty or real unpredictability, or really being disturbed by the brutality that's going on. I'm not feeling that rage build and explode, and I think the right ways, or the ways that I want it to. And I think part of it is because there's nothing about Pearl we don't already know or don't already get a major sense of at the beginning of the film. And so therefore, the experience of it can feel maybe a little bit gratuitous at times. I would have liked to see more of what drives Pearl just from a violent standpoint, especially violence and sex, because obviously sex and violence, is a big part of voyeurism in the cinematic experience. And yes, X is trying to kind of pull that apart a little bit. Did it succeed? In my opinion, no, but at least it tried. And you can still go for like a real romantic sort of quality here and still pull that off, just in a different way. But I am interested in the relationship between maybe the isolation and the eroticism, because they're bringing in the pandemic here for sure as a symbol. I do like that one scene that takes place in the cornfield with the scarecrow, and you know what I'm talking about if you've seen the film, because it does tie in, I think, quite well to the imagery that we see in X. But in this film, again, it exists, and I think it's kind of interesting. It's clever, and yet I feel like we're not truly understanding how it fits into the thesis just overall as an experience. It just kind of hangs there, kind of exists, and we don't delve into it further, and I think we should have. I think it would have helped, a lot of the elements, especially the violent elements towards the end of the film, feel more cohesive. And yeah, you can argue that all the motivations are very clear, and you would be, I think, right to say so. It's like, Pearl, we know why she feels. We know what her mission is in life. And, we understand her mother, and we understand everything that she feels and what she wants out of life. And yet there is just something a little bit too neatly packaged about the way they presented all of that. Obviously, there's a big theme of like old age and youth and the difference in generations. And I wanted to see more of that explored, especially, how it pertains to X, but just I wanted to see more of that relationship between Pearl and the mother explored, because again, they do feel like thin sketches, and then we have these sudden spouts of revelations and exposition. I really do like pastiche films. I just feel like a lot of times we hide behind the pastiche novelty aspect of things because it's easy to do. In this film, I do think it really wants to explore some deeper themes, and it's just not quite sinking its teeth in. And yeah, it is very much kind of like a funhouse look at cinematic influences and references without really knowing, again, how to drive them all home, and orchestrating a full piece, and again, bringing X, all of it, Pearl and X, bring it all full circle in an interesting way. And I think the audience for this film. It is A24, and naturally, if you're into more that like pastiche Tarantino-esque type of stuff, Robert Rodriguez even, then yeah, I think you will get a kick out of this, and a kick out of the movies of Ty West. I'm hoping he pushes himself further, and I really hope he continues to work with Mia Goth, because again, I think she's really breathed a lot of life into his work, these last two films at least. I truly think this is one of the better performances of the year, and that face, you won't forget it. The closing credits will make sure of that. But that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist and I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below, and if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons, who are wonderful guys. Thank you so much for your support. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.